Hi, my name is Justin LaFleur. My project is on the relationship between attitudes and study drugs. The focus is on study drugs. That my interest in study drugs comes from a diagnosis of ADHD as a young child, and being diagnosed amphetamine at a young age. What I'm trying to show is that attitudes towards study drugs are favorable, and that people who use study drugs tend to have a higher GPA. That was the goal, the initial goal. The study has morphed since then. So, original study was meant to have 30 participants, 15 male, 15 female. We used a Likert style survey to garner the data. When I looked up all of the past research on drugs and performance and attitudes, there really wasn't a lot of information on actual attitudes, and the main focus was on an age group 18 to 25 years old, and if the use of medications without a prescription was acceptable. That was the focus of some earlier research, like McCobb, Knight, and Teeter. They looked at 18 to 25-year-olds, and what they found is that students have a favorable attitude towards the use of medications without a prescription. They believe that people should be able to do that. Duke University also performed a study that stated 90% of the respondents reported illicitly taking drugs to achieve academic success. We have Mayer also did some research on boosting brain power with drugs, and they did some studies on the actual effects of amphetamines, and it is shown to boost brain power. 80% of those respondents felt like they should be able to take medication without a prescription. The research, the data that I received is contradictory to a lot of these things. McCobb also stated that males are more likely to be favorable to drug use than females. My goal was to reproduce the male-female aspect of attitudes towards study drugs. Study drugs are defined as the unauthorized use of powerful prescription stimulants, such as amphetamines, to improve concentration and academic performance. Any drug used to boost brain power or fire off neurons is going to be considered a study drug for this purpose. The method that we used was a Likert style survey. Came up with 10 questions. The first 4 were demographic. The last 6 were actual questions on attitudes, cramming, and GPA. Questions 8, 9, and 10 is going to be our focus for this presentation. The mean score for question 8, which was do you believe that cramming is acceptable behavior, was about 1.6, which shows a very negative attitude. Question 9 was do you believe people should be able to use prescriptions without a prescription. That mean score was about 1.7, 1.8, which is a very negative attitude. And then question 10 was, do you believe that people who use study drugs have a higher GPA than people who do not use study drugs? And the answer to that was 2.25, which is very negative. So overall, we're looking at that respondents have a very negative attitude towards the use of study drugs. They do not think that study drugs correspond with a high GPA. I went ahead and used a t-test and correlations to show results. Ended up doing these by hand, actually, because I did not realize that SurveyMonkey could give me standard deviation and mean. Broke them up, male scores, female scores, and then as a whole group. The results show a direct positive correlation to a negative attitude of the use of study drugs and GPA. So students do not believe that the use of study drugs result in a higher GPA. Things that came up during my project that I did not expect was the average age of participants. I was expecting most of the participants to be between the age of 18 and 25. What we saw that was only about 30% were were in that age range. 23% were in the 25 to 34 age range, and 15% were in the 45 to 54 age range. Now, I only had 13 respondents, 10 of which were female, 3 of which were male. So when I calculated male calculations, those were insignificant, so I only had 3 respondents. When we look at female scores are an accurate representation of the entire 13, which shows that negative attitudes towards study drugs and GPA. Also, students also showed a negative attitude towards cramming. They did not look favorably on that practice. So, what I believe that future research should focus on, I was not able to ask directly if students participated in study drug use and actual GPA. So I think future research should be able to look at who's actually taking these substances and what are their GPAs. I think that would give definitive results. I think that the reason why we see negative attitudes currently and then we see positive attitudes for past research is the fact that drug programs and abstinence programs are expanding and people are more educated. I really think that that's the reason why the results are different. I'd like to thank Ashley Mitchell for helping me with these calculations, and hopefully I gave you some insight into the attitudes of students towards study drugs and how that relates to GPA. Thank you.